And here I am, all purple-haired and bushy-tailed this morning. Today, it's about 8:40 or so, and I am lying here enjoying this nice warm bathtub. I'm going to, need to take my mom to the oral surgeon today because she's got some teeth that have to be removed. The chemo and probably years and years of smoking have caused her teeth to begin to deteriorate a little bit. She's 82 and she still has her own teeth, so she probably is not going to lose them all. But you know, we get old and our bodies fall apart. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing today. But I wanted to take a little bit of time to bathtub vlog before I go down the hill. I'm up the hill at my own home, obviously, because I'm in my own bathroom. And I wanted to talk about the idea of selfish kindness. This has been on my mind for the past few days, and I kept wanting to make a video about it and been busy and haven't done it. But I've noticed that, at least in my circles of places I go, people I see, people I know, kindness is in short supply. Okay. The attempt at kindness doesn't seem to be in short supply. It's as if people are trying to work with one another, but everyone seems to be so stressed out, upset, preoccupied, just generally unable to meet that kindness high water mark. And so it's been causing me to think about the nature of kindness and why we're kind to one another in the first place. And I was startled to realize that the reason I'm kind to people is generally a self, I'm not going to say selfish necessarily, but it's a self-motivated reason. And here's what I mean. I'm going to give you some examples. Years ago, when my kids were in high school, I have two boys, and they went to high school in the 1990s. They were that little sliver of generation that sort of got caught between my world and being born digital. They had to learn to deal with the new reality as they were growing up. They weren't born into it. So I think that caused a lot of weird fallout for boys particularly. But mine were, it's like they had like the 1970s sort of vibe, and yet, you know, they were living in an era where they were supposed to be, you know, new millennial. Anyway, a lot of the kids that my boys knew were just disturbed in one way or another. They were kind of lost. They all came from, you know, relatively solid, you know, middle class solid. I'm not exactly sure what that means anymore, but let's put it this way. They all lived in houses. One or both parents worked. They had, you know, money for rollerblades and Nikes and, you know, enough food and fun and transportation, and, you know, they would ski in the winter or they would, you know, boat in the summer. I mean, they had relatively well-to-do little lives, and so it wasn't a money issue. But these kids were lost. A lot of them ended up in continuation school, and or just dropping out completely. They had some very rough times in their early 20s. And some of them didn't survive their early 20s, and that's what I want to talk about. My youngest son had a friend named Chris, and this kid was just troubled and just a very unhappy kid. his parents were Christian and clueless about how to help their son. I mean, they tried everything they could think of. So they ended up sending him to one of these, it's not I guess you could call it a brainwashing camp, but back then in the 1990s, there were, and maybe there still are, I don't know, I don't have kids in school, so I'm not sure, but they had a lot of these camps where you could send troubled kids, and they were generally, not always, but generally they were a Christian camp, and they tried to, whip these kids into shape over a 6-week period so they could go back home and go back to school and be functional. Well, Chris's family did that with him, and they sent him to one of these camps, and he came back, and he went back about a week or so, and I was at the grocery store. I came out of the grocery store, got in my car, started to drive away, and I noticed this boy, and he was about 16 at the time. I noticed him sitting on the curb as you come out of the store, and then there's the parking lot. Well, he was there on the curb, just sitting there with his head in his hands, and just sitting there. And I was moved to go talk to him. So I parked my car, I got out, went over, approached him, and he looks up at me, and I'm like, "Hey, Chris, how you doing?" "Oh, I'm okay," he says. And I said, "You need a ride somewhere?" "No, I don't need a ride." "You hungry? Are you thirsty?" "No, I'm not." And so I sat down next to him and just sat there. And it was probably about, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes that I sat there. Not very long. And we had a conversation in monosyllables, basically. I'd ask him something, or I'd make a comment, and he'd comment back, and it was very kind of, hard to explain the mood. It was disconnected, but relaxed at the same time. I almost felt like he wasn't my kid's friend, and I wasn't the mom. We were just two people sitting on the curb trying to figure it out. That's what it felt like, even though those weren't the words that were coming out of our mouths. So after a few minutes, I got up and I said, "Are you sure you don't want to ride?" "No, I'm fine." "Okay, well, listen, you have a good weekend. I'll see you later. Have you talked to my son yet?" "Oh, no, I haven't called him, but tell him I'm back." "Okay, I'll tell him that you're back." And by Monday, he was dead. He had shot himself in his parents' bathroom, and his little sister found him. And it was shocking. I mean, obviously the kid was troubled, but, anytime anyone commits suicide, but particularly a child, it's beyond shocking. I mean, I don't know what the word is. It's just the most horrifying thing. And I remember thinking that I was so glad that I had taken the time to sit and talk to this kid. It didn't help him. It didn't keep him alive. All it really did was give me an opportunity to reach out to somebody else that I knew was obviously not having a good day, and just sort of exercise my own humanity, if that makes any sense. There wasn't a payoff, except for, on my side, was where the payoff was, because I knew that I had done the right thing, and it affected me so profoundly that I started looking for opportunities to do that. Even to this day, I look for opportunities to do that. There's been a lot of times where I've been able to do a kindness that probably didn't help the person, but it helped me feel more human, or more properly human. And one of those times was my son, my younger son, and I. We used to hang. We hang out a lot together. Anyway, when he was in just starting junior college, I would go over to that side of town and pick him up, and we'd drive over to McDonald's and we'd get some, food, and we'd sit in the McDonald's parking lot and we would watch the show. And the reason it was a show was because our college is in kind of a sketchy part of town, and the McDonald's that we went to is like in the sketchiest part of town. So you had, prostitutes and drug dealers and crazy homeless people and, little tiny kids wandering the streets when they should have been home, and all sorts of shady characters hanging out in that area. So we would sit in the car and we would drink our sweet teas and we would eat our, cheeseburgers, and we would watch the show, essentially. Well, one evening we were sitting there, and it was a rainy, actually it was an afternoon. It was a rainy afternoon, and there was this homeless girl. She was sitting on the curb, and she had laid out her sleeping bag, and she had her stuff. She was kind of up on the grass between the street and the parking lot. And she had laid her stuff out, and she was just sitting there. Well, it really started to rain, and she had this, fabric sleeping bag and all this cardboard junk, and she's trying to, get it all together and shove it into her shopping cart, and she kind of did, and then she crossed the road, and it's really pouring down, and she went over to stand underneath one of the, those roofs that they build over gas pumps so that if it's raining, you don't get too wet. Well, she was across the street at the gas station, kind of huddled underneath one of these things. And I don't know why I was moved to do this, but we finished our food, and I went through the drive-thru again, and I got a meal, and we drove over to the gas station and pulled up, and I got out of the car, and I handed her the meal, and I handed her a $20 bill, and I said something like, I know this doesn't help you in the long run, but, maybe this can help brighten your day a little bit today. And I just handed her the stuff, and she was kind of shocked that I could tell she was a little bit scared when I approached her. I mean, you could just kind of feel the fear and wariness coming off of her. But of course, after I'd given her the two things and I'd moved to back up, and get back in my car, then I think at that point she realized I wasn't a danger, and she said something like, "God bless you," or something like that. And again, what I didn't do anything. I mean, $20 was going to go into her arm, or, buy as much T-Bird as she could get from the convenience store, or whatever her deal was. I don't know what her deal was, but everyone on the streets got a deal of one way or one stripe or another. Anyhow, and it's like, it just gave her a little comfort for a short amount of time. And that didn't help her particularly, but it helped me. Again, I felt like, yeah, I'm doing something valuable for myself as a human. And there's many, many other examples I could give you, but those were the two that stand out in my mind. Okay, so how that relates to my YouTube peeps and life right now is, outside of haters and trolls, which we all know are unkind, professionally. I mean, that's what they do. And, boy, you guys are doing a good job at it, too. Bravo. Be as unkind as you possibly can be. Anyway, outside of those morons, there's the rest of us. Trying to be friends, trying to hang out, trying to feel better, trying to pass the time away, trying to be entertained, trying to entertain others, all that. Just us guys, us YouTube people. And I think being kind to each other is something that we should remember. Not just loving each other with love mail and God, you know, telling one another how great we think their personalities, their videos are, but there are. In fact, this could be all of us at any given time, but right now there are people in these different communities that I hang out in who are, they're not quite, they have issues, and their issues come out in their videos, and it can make their videos tedious or difficult to listen to sometimes. It can make, they can be irritating, you know, that sort of thing. They can seem unsophisticated or just a little off somehow. And we can all be that way at one time or another. I know I can be. I probably am right now because I'm tired and I'm not stringing my words together really well this morning. But I think when we see that happening with somebody that was in our circle, I think maybe we should think kindness before we think unsubscribing. And kindness can sometimes just be pointing somebody, pointing their mind in a new direction. It can be, you know, messaging them and saying, hey, you know what, I noticed in your last video that you seem stressed out over blah, blah, and it was hard to listen to. Do you want to talk about it? Or sometimes kindness is waiting for whatever that person is spinning for whatever reason they're spinning. Giving them some time to spin, waiting for it to be over, and then giving them space to kind of trip. Sometimes you realize that you've subscribed to someone or you're spending time with someone who really doesn't have, I'm not going to say doesn't have a lot of redeeming value, because everybody does, even, well, maybe not Jeffrey Dahmer, but I think everybody besides Jeffrey Dahmer has some sort of redeeming value. But some people, you know, you have to walk away from. So if you're going to walk away from someone, try to do it kindly, quietly, and without yapping on about how difficult these people are. That just feels right to me for some reason. And maybe it's just my personality. Maybe that's just the kind of person that I am. I tend to like to. It's not that I won't engage in a confrontation. I will. I have, and I will continue. But it's that for me to function happily in life, I need to set the plane down as bump-free as possible and disembark, leaving the least mess that I can possibly leave, the smallest mess. And I mean, when you leave somebody, there's always somewhat of a mess left behind. So yeah, kindness isn't always about the other guy. It's often about us and how we see ourselves and how we want to continue to see ourselves. And maybe that's self-deception, I don't know. But it just feels right to me. So yeah. So on that note, I'm going to finish my bath, and I'm going to go take my mother to get some teeth pulled out. And I will talk to all you people later. Bye.